Hey, hi, hello creatives. Welcome back or to my channel. My name is Lindsay, and today we are finally getting to my quarter two reading wrap up for the last 3 months. Well, I guess not the last 3 months, but 3 months nonetheless. Of course, I'm using my journal, my uni pen fine liners, some metallic markers, some stickers I got off of Amazon, I believe, some stamps this time around, and as well as keeping to my theme of using scrapbook paper, as well as a bunch of photos printed off of Pinterest for the book spreads I'm going to do. And if you haven't seen any of my bullet journal setup videos, if that's not your thing, that's totally fine. But what I mean by using scrapbook paper is for the last couple of months, I've been using scrapbook paper for my bullet journal themes. So I'm keeping that going essentially with using scrapbook paper as well for my reading journal setups. And I believe this is kind of left over from my July setup. For my July setup of, so if you like any of the materials and stuff that you're seeing, I used them for my July bullet journal setup. But I jump right in to do my title page first for the second quarter of the year, which is April, May, and June. I read 5 books in these 3 months. And they were actually all audiobooks. And I actually finished quite a few times, but all 5 books are audiobooks, which I mentioned, but I finished a series. I haven't completed the series completely because there is another book coming out, and I honestly believe it's coming out the beginning of next year. I can't say for sure. But so I'm using some metallic pens that I got from Amazon that I recently did as a mini haul in one of my other setups. Can't remember which one, honestly. It's been a little bit since I've posted, which I apologize for, but I have been deep into audiobooks. I've really been trying to catch up on my Goodreads challenge, and I know I don't have to. And I honestly thought it was something that I wouldn't be able to meet this year, but now I just completed one book yesterday. I'm recording this voiceover August 29th. And I believe you're going to be seeing this August 30th, tomorrow. So Friday. And I believe I'm 1 book ahead right now, which is pretty exciting considering at one point I was 4 or 5 books behind. So I'm pretty proud of myself for that. So I've kind of been a little MIA just because I have been, this video has been recorded for quite some time, and it's just taking me a little bit to record, to edit and do the voiceover for it, just because it's so hard to balance all of the things I want to do in the evening. And I know I've mentioned it before. I also, because fall is upon us and sweater weather is coming and cozy vibes is just around the corner, I made myself a little fall bucket list. I did a short on it actually. And one of the items in there is to complete a paint by numbers that I got literally for Christmas in 2020. And it's a pretty big canvas. I want to say it's 11 by 14 inches, possibly. It's like a poster board, but maybe not as I honestly don't know how big it is, but it's much bigger than just a sheet of paper, and it's much bigger than even a 12 by 12 piece of scrapbook paper. So I've been really wanting to finish that. So I've kind of been splitting up my evenings and doing an hour worth of reading, my physical book, and an hour of doing my paint by numbers, and then jumping into my journal stuff. But by the time the end of the day comes around, it's there's only an hour or so of editing that I do before going to sleep. And we're in the transition month of my son starts school next week. So we have to start waking up a little bit early and getting used to and really pushing for my daughter to be on more of a schedule of waking up. She kind of varies between 7:30 to 8:30 waking up, and I need her to start waking up at 7:15ish so that I can feed her and stuff before going to drop my son off for school next week. So it's just kind of been a little bit of a transition situation and just kind of, yeah, like recording videos and getting to do the voiceover. And normally I hyperfixate on one thing. And like, if I'm doing videos, then I'm only doing videos and I'm pumping out videos back to back, but then I'm not reading, I'm not catching up on my journals. So I'm really trying to balance everything. And if that means that I can't necessarily put out a video per week, then that's what that means, just because I want to kind of stay on top of all of the things. So yeah, so that's kind of what's been happening. And I did start the Throne of Glass series. I have decided, and I am currently reading the Assassin's Blade first. I'm generally speaking a chronological girly. I want to know. I know that this is because these are prequels, and I know that they're like 5 novellas that are kind of linked together of what Celaena's story is. I wanted to get the background of her before kind of jumping into Throne of Glass. And my 2 book friends, well, one book friend in real life, and then another one that I've met just through like Instagram, mentioned to read Assassin's Blade first. So that's what I've decided to do. And if I sit and contemplate it more and more and more, I just wouldn't pick up the series. And I'm just like, you know what? I can't stress. I know I only get to read the series once, and I get that. And like, but if I just sat there and contemplated it for so long, I would just never read the books. And I would rather start the books because I know that it's going to be such a good time. It's going to be such a emotional roller coaster. I'm here for it. But if I sat and contemplated, which book should I start with? And like, just constantly give myself a hard time over which one to choose, I wouldn't start the series, and I'd rather just start it. So I'm starting with the Assassin's Blade. I'm about halfway through. I'm enjoying it so far. I'm not hooked. I am hooked, but I think it's just taking a little bit more to not force myself to read it, because I don't find myself, like, I don't need to force myself to read it, but it's just because it's a physical book. And I go for drives and I read my audiobooks, which are great. And then I also have a Kindle book, and it's just, again, balance, and I'm working on it. I'm working through it, and it's good. And I'm excited to get some downtime this weekend to really as soon as I put this video out there, then I know that I'll be able to, do some reading. But I also have to record my September plan with me. I haven't done that yet, but it will be coming. Even if it's a week late, I don't care. I'm still going to post it. I'm still going to do it because I enjoy doing them. So yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at, is balancing all of my hobbies, and here we are. But so I've set up my cover page. I will go in at the end to fill out the stats and such. But I'm just going back and filling out my like yearly collections at the beginning of my reading journal. I know for a lot of folks, when they put out quarterly videos like this, they only kind of fill in stuff for April, May, and June, or for whatever that quarter is. But what's easiest for me is I was just updating this journal as of that date, just because I didn't want to have to go back and I was already there. So I updated the journal up until I think the beginning of August is when I recorded this. So I just kind of went through and updated everything that I've read so far. So I've updated it. So there I did, I read the last 2 books of the Billionaire Dreamland series. I read the Bridge Kingdom series. I read the Colin and Penelope story. I read a novella on my Kindle Stalker or something. Can't remember what it was called. It was honestly just a filler book, and kind of dipped my toes into dark romance, because I think that that's a genre I'm going to get into shortly. But I'm just updating, again, my like collection spreads and such. And now I'm going to just put in the book pages for the books that I've read this quarter, which is the entire Bridge Kingdom series. This is actually a very fun series, and it's also all available on the Audible what is it called? Catalog, the one that comes with your subscription. So I thought that was really fun, and you don't have to use your credits in order to read it. And it was a really good series. The first 2 books are following, let's see, can I get the names? The first 2 books are following, no, can't get it. Arin, and let's see, did I write them down on my spreads? Arin and, oh my gosh, I'm terrible. Why don't I remember names? I really have to write them down. I'm so bad. I keep saying this. And Laura, Arin and Laura. I need to go back and put the names of the lead characters, the main characters on the spread. I just have to do it right next to I know in the previous spreads, I did do that. I did in my first quarter, because I guess the spreads that I did, they had, like the option, what am I trying to say? The spreads that I did for the first quarter, when I looked up the photos on Pinterest, there was Pinterest photos that included the names of the characters. So I printed those off. But I don't know why I struggle so hard, but I struggle so hard. Anyway, so I'm doing this isn't necessarily in the order that I read them. The order that I read them, I put on the title page, which I first read The Bridge Kingdom, then I read Traitor Queen, then I read The Inadequate Heir, and then I jumped into Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, Colin and Penelope's story, and then I jumped back into the fantasy world, or it's not even a fantasy novel, and read The Endless War. I don't even know what genre, honestly, because it's not fantasy. There isn't magical things. There's not fairies. There's not, like, I wouldn't say a historic. I would probably lead more towards like a historical romance more than fantasy, because there's no special powers. And it's like an old school era, I guess. I don't know what it's labeled as. I wouldn't call it fantasy, but it is, I don't know what you call it. Anyways, so I read the Bridge Kingdom, and so I decided to put the 2 books that were about the same characters kind of on that double page. So on the left side, I'm doing the Bridge Kingdom, and then on the right side, I'm doing the Traitor Queen. I did not choose specific, like I went in and picked a bunch of photos off of Pinterest that I always do, and I will leave my Pinterest board linked below. So if you like any of these photos, you can, go and use them. I didn't curate them in any way myself. I just kind of type in Pinterest, the Bridge Kingdom aesthetic or the Bridge Kingdom book, and kind of save the pictures that pop up. I try to remember different things that happened in the book to try and pick photos to represent what happened. And then when I arrange them on paper, what I like to do is try and do a little bit of order of how the events happened, or kind of tell the story through the photos. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's about balancing the colors and stuff to make it aesthetically pleasing for the eye on paper, where sometimes I like to kind of tell the story into what happened. And like, if there's something that I know happened at the very beginning of the book, well, then I'm not going to put it on the last page right in the far corner. I know it's silly, but it's just kind of, for someone that struggles to remember constantly what I read and the different events that happened in that book, I use the photos to kind of remind me. And like, when I look at it, it's like, oh yeah, like that happened. And it just helps a little bit to do it in order of kind of how it happened. I don't always remember because I don't have the book in front of me. I don't do this as I go. It's just, how I kind of organize the photos. Anyways, so now I'm adding in stickers that I actually got from the dollar store. And I went to Dollar Tree when I was out. We were doing like a camping trip, and my son and I went into town and went to Dollarama, and I picked up a bunch of stickers. And I did pick up these stickers in mind of using them for the Bridge Kingdom series spreads, because although it's not pirate themed, because they're not pirates, But there's a lot of ships involved. There's there's obviously a bridge involved, and like ownership of this bridge, and different kind of kingdoms that happen. So it just, to me, pirates and pirate themed stickers just kind of went with it. And I know you don't have to match the stickers to the spread that you're doing. You really don't. Sometimes I don't, because I just don't have stickers to match that book. But I decided to get close as possible, and I really liked how they turned out, especially because I know I never normally have a lot of room for stickers and such, because I do primarily, like, I use photos for my book spreads. I don't write huge blurbs. I know most people write like how they felt about the book and what happened and blah, blah. But I don't remember. If I'm not, I should be writing it down as I'm reading. But generally speaking, when I'm reading these types of books, they're audiobooks. So I'm driving and I can't write my thoughts and feelings as I'm driving, or I can't write my thoughts and feelings as soon as I get to where I'm going, because I most likely have 2 kids in the car that want to get out of the car by the time I get to wherever I'm going. So that's just not realistic for me at this point in my life. So I've just opted to not write my thoughts and feelings about the book, and more so of just, if I rated the book 4 stars or higher, then they get a collage spread in my reading journal. And if I didn't write them at least 4, if I didn't rate them, what am I saying? If I didn't rate them at least 4 stars, then they are just going on my cover page, and they won't get a collage spread the way I do for these books. So jumping already, as I organized the photos for Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, I decided to read this book because again, it was a part of the Audible catalog, so it was free to read, or free to listen to, sorry. And I decided that I didn't want to wait for part 2 to come out before knowing what happened. But then as I quickly realized, listening to the book, it is, I don't want to say very different, but it's very different from the TV series. And one of the main differences that I will, I guess, say as a spoiler, if you haven't read or watched the series, but a huge, like, what's her name? Eloise is, so in the books, she's supportive over who Lady Whistledown is, but in the show, she's not. She's like betrayed. So like, it's very weird. But I definitely like the books better in that aspect. I also liked how I liked the ending of the book better for Penelope and Colin's story. However, since doing in a part of the 3rd quarter, I will say that I listened to The Duke and I much preferred the TV series over the books that for Daphne's story, just because I don't know. I don't love how it kind of portrayed and happened in like Daphne's story for the books. And I know that it was probably normal for that time. But it really just gives me the ick over like how she got pregnant in the books as opposed to the TV show. So there is definitely a difference, but for some of them I like the TV series better, and some of them I like the books better. I say some of them, but I've only literally read the 2 of them. So I will continue the series, and there are a few of the series on Audible that I've been listening to, but I jumped back in after like knowing what happened with Penelope and Colin's story. I then watched the TV show, which again, I really enjoyed. Like, I do really like the Bridgerton series. And then I went back to listen to The Endless War to finish off the Bridge Kingdom series. And so, as I mentioned earlier, so the Bridge Kingdom and then the Traitor Queen are both based on Laura and Arryn. And then the next 2 books, which are The Inadequate Heir and The Endless War, that are Karis and Zara's story. And I did I say much prefer, but I did enjoy Karis and Zara's story better than the first. I don't know why. I just was hooked on it a little bit more, and maybe because it was like a forbidden love and it was like enemies to lovers, and like that's just kind of my cup of tea. So I enjoyed their story better. But what I didn't realize with going into the Inadequate Heir, the book, you have, what's the last one called again? Okay, so you have Traitor Queen and the Inadequate Heir. They're actually the same events that are happening, but they're from different perspectives. So I know essentially how it all happened, or I know the ending. I know the outcome of what happened to their father, because Karis and Laura are brothers and sisters. So, or brother, sister, they're siblings. So I do know what happened ultimately at the end, but it's from a different perspective. So I wasn't quite ready for that. And I've never read a book series that's done that, but I did really enjoy it. Honestly, I did like the alternate perspective. I did like that I kind of knew the ending, basically because it got rid of that anxiety over like what's going to happen, because I already knew. It was just from different perspective, which was really cool. I haven't read that part of it before. So I enjoyed that, but of course I just felt like I wasn't in a rush to continue reading, just because I kind of already knew how it ended essentially. And then The Endless War, I was really hooked on that book, and that was the three first books I all rated 4 stars, and then The Endless War I rated 4.5 stars, just because I was definitely way more hooked on the last book than I was the first 3. But ultimately, I really enjoyed that series, and for a book like a series that's free on Audible, I would highly recommend listening to it if you haven't already, because I really did enjoy it. But yeah, I just used the same stickers as well, and because it still kind of gave off, obviously it's still in the same kingdoms and such. So I still continue to use the pirate theme stickers, and like those are my spreads that I did for the books that I read in the second quarter, and I love them. I'm currently reading, as I mentioned, The Assassin's Blade. I'm currently reading the Harry Potter number 4, which is Goblet of Fire. And then I finished To Hate Adam Connor, and I'm starting to read the Windy City series, and I'm on the second book, and holy crow, or like Mother Teresa, because I think it's not Mile High, The Right Move, which is the second book, and I am so giddy. Indy and Ryan's story, literally so giddy. Like, I would highly recommend that series. It's all over TikTok, so I'm sure it's something that you're interested in, or maybe on your TBR, but I would highly, highly recommend reading it. The second book, I'm literally so giddy. So yeah, I read 5 books this quarter. Hours listened was 72 hours, 12 minutes worth of reading. I read 47 days out of the 91 days, 4 books, 4 stars, and 1 book, 4.5 stars. And they were all audible. So if you made it this far in the video, I want to thank you so much for watching. I hope you like, comment, share, subscribe, all of the things. It means so much to me and helps this channel grow. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.